Hi, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to have some coding exercises for chain maps. So here we would like to have managing configuration settings. So a chain map can be used to handle configuration settings where user-defined setting override system defaults. Okay. So here, first of all, we need to import chain map from the collection module. Then, for example, the default configuration of our system is the following. We're having a dictionary that is uh, having three elements. So theme is the first key, font size is the second key, and language is the third key. So for the key theme, we're having its associated value, which is light. For the key font size, we are having its associated value, which is 12. And for the language key, we are having its associated value, which is English. Okay, so this is the default configuration of our system, for example, and displayed in a dictionary. Then we can have a user defined setting. For example, this is the when you buy, for example, a cell phone, this is the default configuration that comes with the cell phone when you turn it on. But then it asks you some questions that you can customize the configuration setting of your cell phone. For example, you prefer dark theme, or you prefer to have a larger font size, or even if you want, you can have another language. For example, you don't want to have the default configuration of your cell phone to be English, you want it to be French, German, Chinese, etc. So it depends on you, and you want to have a customized configuration. This is what we call user-defined setting or user configuration. In this case, the for example, cell phone that I bought comes with a light theme and with the font size of 12 with the English language. However, I would like to have my font size to be bigger, and the theme, I don't want it to be light, I want it to be dark. Therefore, I have my own defined configuration. So I would like to have a dictionary to present my data. So when I enter the data, it can be presented in a dictionary, for example, inside the cell phone. It is it is posing some questions. Based on my answers, it is, for example, preparing a dictionary with keys and the associated values. So the key is here theme. I want it to be dark, and the font size, I want it to be 14 instead of 12. Then using a chain map, we can combine the user configuration and the default configuration and assign it to a variable that is holding our chain map called config. Then what is going to happen is the following. When this is the default configuration, when the user defined configuration is there, we're going to have the user defined configuration overriding the default configuration. Okay, so the theme is now dark. It's overriding the theme light, which was the default setting. And the font size is now 14, which was the default size was, for example, 12. So now that we have it on a chain map, we are first putting the user configuration and then the default configuration, because we want the user configuration to override the similar keys there. So this key is shared between two configurations. Therefore, I want this theme to override this theme, which is the default one. Now, when we print, we see that, for example, we want to print the theme from the config chain map. This is the keyword, and this is the key, let's say, of the chain map, and this is the name of the chain map. Therefore, when we run the code, we see that the theme is dark because the user preference overrides the default preference. Okay, but then when we talk about the font size, we again have the key font size from the config chain map. And when we print this, we see that in the output, we have the font size of 14, which is the user preference that is overriding the default setting and configuration. Finally, when we want to discuss the language in which the system is presented, for example, we write down the key language from the config chain map. However, here we see that the language remains the same. It's English because the user did not define any customized configuration apart from the English, which was the default setting. So this is why we see that the language remains the same. However, if we wanted to have a different language, it would have been something like this. For example, I could say language, then we could have, for example, French here. Okay, so now that I added a new key to the user preference, the user configuration, this language overrides the default language, which is English. So now when I rerun the code, I expect to see French in the language because now it is also customized. So this is how we can have a managing configuration setting, for example, for a cell phone or for a laptop. When we buy it, it has a default configuration, but we are going to customize it, and this can be done through dictionaries and more particularly when they are combined. So we are having a chain map and the user preferences is going to override the default setting. Thank you for watching.